Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Crista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today, I'm joined by Amira Alvarez, and we are going to be talking about making quantum leaps in business, which is quite exciting. I can't wait to dive into this topic. So I'll tell you a little bit about Amira, and then Amira, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell everyone about you. So Amira is the founder and CEO of the Unstoppable Woman. That is a global coaching company helping entrepreneurs, empire builders, athletes, creatives, and rising stars to achieve their dreams and their goals in record time. As someone who has made a quantum leap, going from barely 6 figures to 700,000 in 1 year, and then on to 7 figures, which is quite impressive. She knows exactly what tactical strategies and mindset shifts are required to get out of your own way, live life on your own terms, and master the art of achieving any goal you set your mind to. Amira, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, tell everyone a little bit about your journey and kind of what got you into what you do today.
Absolutely. So, there's a whole backstory. We all have a history. We all have a place that we've come from, and I think it's really important to see all of that. And my come from is I think a fairly classic middle class upbringing story. Nothing horrendous in my childhood. I didn't come from incredible poverty. I had two parents. They got divorced at some point, but two really strong parents in my life who cared a lot about me. And I was brought up with the idea that if you get good grades in school and you work hard, you will get ahead in life. You will have a successful life. And I think that's a pretty standard storyline that a lot of us grew up with. And that was certainly me. I considered myself a bit of a smarty pants. I was the kid that always got good grades. I had the rebel side too, but I was going for the good grades and got a good education and went to a great school and did all the right, quote unquote, right things. I worked in corporate for a while. Then I started my own business in a different field than I'm in now. Was fairly successful doing that, running that business. Decided to move across the country and start a new business. And I had to start all over again. And I was really using a lot of the things I learned from my first business for the second business. And it was at this 3 years in point where I just hit a wall. The first year, maybe it was 6 months, 9 months, not quite a year, but I made 30K, solid start at least. Second K, and this is as a solo entrepreneur, right? Second year in business, tripled that. I got to 90K. I was very excited. I had that 6 figure, that mythical 6 figure mark that I wanted to get to. And I didn't get there, but I did fairly well. It was a pretty significant uh, growth already. And then that third year in business, I went from 90K to 138. So also I share my numbers because I think it's really important to like pull back the curtain and be transparent so people actually know what your story is. They can relate to it. They can see, okay, that makes sense. It's possible, all of that sort of stuff. So third year in business, I 138 was a nice chunk, right? Another 50K basically. Um, that I increased my income, not too shabby. But I didn't have, like, my one tool in my toolkit was work harder. Okay. Like I was going for excellence. I worked harder. I was a good person. I dotted my I's. I crossed my T's. I paid a lot of attention to grammar and typos, right? I was like trying to be the good student in my business. And partway through that year, I was at the end of a workday. It wasn't a client facing day. So at around 6:30, 6:45 at night, my then husband called upstairs and was like, "Hey, honey, I made dinner. Do you want to come down for dinner?" I was like, "Oh yeah, thank you, babe. Be right down." Like an hour later, I was still trying to get one more thing done, right? That, like, you speak to this a lot in what you do, right? It's like that classic entrepreneurial, like on the hamster wheel, never ending to-do list. I couldn't get it done. And he like called up and it was like, "Hey babe, I'm starting." Like, no guilt and shame. Love him for that, right? But it was a reckoning moment for me. And I was sitting there, I was on the floor of my office, leaning up against the couch with my laptop on my lap, like, and and you have to just visualize this. It was now 7:30, 7:45 at night. I hadn't brushed my teeth. I hadn't taken a shower, and I was still in the dog hair covered sweats that I had slept in, right? Like, because I woke up like with a tiger freaking chasing me, thinking that if I just worked harder, I would get ahead. And I know you're nodding your head. I know that you get this. Like, this is the story that you hear all the time. And that was me. That was totally, totally me. So it was at that point that I was like, this is, I'm not doing what successful people do. Successful people do things differently, and I need to learn what and let me say that differently. That I had reached a certain level of success, so I don't want to undermine, right? Like, some people will go, "Well, didn't you already cross the six-figure mark? Like, isn't that success?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I still wanted to grow." And that year, I studied success. I found a really good mentor. I claimed a huge goal for myself of going for $1 million. I had no idea, Krista. I had no idea how I was going to get there. No idea. It was a huge leap of faith. And I really worked on my self image and my identity and doing things differently. And that year, I went from 138 to 700. So that's my story. I didn't make that seven-figure goal, right? Like, I'm just like, you had a goal, you didn't make it. Like, I get that, right? Like, but I was super disappointed, right? Like, I know that sounds entitled and crazy. Like, you did all this amazing, the big leap, and you're like disappointed because you didn't reach your goal. I was, and I had to feel that pain and then turn around and look at what I did and celebrate and recognize that it was just the beginning. So that's my story. Ordinary upbringing, ordinary girl with chutzpah, like high achiever, wanting to go for more, really hitting a limit on my capacity, and then breaking through. And the other piece that I'll plant the seed on, and we can talk about more if you want, is, I was chasing my tail because I had all this subconscious programming, all this conditioning about who I was in this world, and it was limiting not only my bank balance, my income, but my sense of freedom and peace and loving myself and living a delighted, lit up life. Like, once I broke through, it like changed everything, Krista, in all the areas of my life. So we can talk about that too if you're game.
Yes, I love that so much. I mean, I resonate with so much of your story, and thank you for being so transparent and actually sharing your real journey, your real numbers, and how you felt about it. And 700,000 in that one year, that was a quantum leap. That was amazing. Yet at the same time, I feel the disappointment of when you have your heart set on one thing and it's not what you had your heart set on. But what I love so much about your story is it sounded like you had a really well rounded and sustainable way that you approached the leaps that you made. It sounded like you looked at both the internal work as well as the tactical and strategic things that you needed to actually do. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit. And how did you get there? Because it's a really big shift, and going from six figures to seven figures is no joke, and all sorts of stuff comes up internally beyond just the things that you need to do differently.
Oh my God, it was huge. The biggest growth journey ever. So, this about business, but if there are people just thinking about changing their perspective on business, you have to put your big girl panties on. You have to be able to take risks. You have to stay so determined, and and work through the inner game stuff that comes up, because it's not for the faint of heart. I will tell you, it was a major recalibration of who I was in this world, how I saw myself. So tactically on the outside, I, I'm happy. Like if someone wants the tactics, I will like. I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom. Okay, here they are. I learned how to do sales at a much higher level. I raised my income. There's only or my rates. There's only three ways to make more money in business. You increase what you're charging, you sell more of what you're already selling, or you add a new channel of income. There's only three ways. You can do a combination therein, but like everything goes in those three ways. I don't care if you're Oprah Winfrey or Beyonce. Like those are the three ways. It all fits in there. Okay. So I added a new channel of income and I also raised my rates. And I didn't sell more, I just sold higher. But in order to do that, the tactical thing that I needed to do was to learn how to sell and get out of all the emotional blocks around selling because most people want to run screaming from the room when I talk to them about sales. But money comes from spirit source, infinite supply, the non formed world, and it's abundant. There's more money in circulation now than there's ever been before in history. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, think about how much money was in circulation at the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century, in Cleopatra's time, right? Like, there's just more money now than there's ever been before, and it keeps getting more, not less. Okay. You might have a cash flow problem, right? It might not be in your bank account, but it's not that there's not more money in circulation right now. It keeps getting more and more. So money comes from the non form, the infinite, through people, through sales. The mechanism is sales. You have to learn that mechanism. I now have mastered that. I mean, I'm always in growth around it, but now I teach my clients sales because it's so critical. We do 2-day events on that. It's so critical, and you have to get good with people. And this is where all the inner game stuff comes in because people are afraid of offending someone, sounding too salesy, being too pushy, and they will resist what's required in a sales conversation that's authentic, that's high integrity, that's of service. They'll resist it because of all the conditioning they have, and they're not good with other people. When I got good with other people, my life changed so dramatically. Like, relationship wise, the kinds of clients I was attracting. Like, I just was no longer contorting myself to be small in this world, to jump through hoops for other people. I'm still of service, I'm still supporting people in my life, but I'm not jumping through hoops, and that is freaking freedom. And so that's a little bit of the tactical outer game aspect, but also the inner game piece. And there's so much on the inner game piece. Ask me another question. I'll keep going, but I think there's a little bit for you.
Yeah, let's dive into a little deeper in the inner game. So what were some of the really big shifts that you experienced, or kind of some of those big maybe epiphany moments that you came across throughout your journey?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I really needed to do was understand how the world works, how the business world works, but also how our our universe works. And it's an ordered universe. It's not disordered. But when you are thinking, where's my next client coming from? How am I going to meet payroll? Am I going to be able to pay my mortgage? You are in confusion. That's a sign, and this is not a judgment. It's just a sign that you don't understand the law of cause and effect. You don't understand how the universe is ordered. And I had to really dive deep and study. There are two fundamental inner game things that I did. Dive deep and study the universal laws. So I call them the laws of success, one of which I mentioned to you, the law of cause and effect. We live in an ordered universe. Nothing is random. There's no such thing as luck. Like, you put yourself in the way of luck, right? You put yourself in the way of opportunities. You grow by the decisions you're making and the perspective that you're looking at things. So there's if you are confused about how to grow your business, it's not because it's confusing. It's because you're confused. So how do we get you as a client, or me back then, out of confusion? Well, I teach you how the universe runs, and then you start changing your thinking to align with the laws of the universe. And suddenly you're not getting in your own way anymore. You're not self sabotaging anymore. You're not in that resistance. It comes out as picking fights. It comes out as seeing clients as difficult. It comes out as procrastination. It comes out as distraction and not being able to focus on things. Like uh, all these things in your business, like not being able to find good team. These are all classic like challenges that entrepreneurs have. But if you understand the laws, you can approach it totally differently and grow in an ordered fashion. So that was one of the things that I really dove in and studied, and now I teach because it's so critical. So if people are interested in learning about that, we have a lot of, free mindset things that they can download and participate in that teach the laws. And then the other thing that I did is I worked on my identity, my self-image, how I saw myself. And this is super, super critical. If you don't see yourself as someone for whom making $1 million is a possibility, like consciously you go, yeah, that would be nice. Consciously, oh, yeah, I could do that. That would be great. But if you don't actually see yourself, meaning you identify with being that person, you won't do the things that are required to do to make $1 million. So I had to first convince myself that that was me, that I could do that, and it hooked me. And then I worked with a fantastic mentor who helped me stay the course and got me out of all the story that I was going into about when I started derailing myself. And that really allowed me to step up to a higher level of delivery for my clients, a higher level of how I, did my business model, all of that. I had to first see myself as worthy of what I wanted to receive.
So you've shared a couple things about kind of ways that maybe you've kind of grown and learned to get out of your way and some of your progress, and I'm sure this is stuff that you see a lot with your clients as well. So where are some of the biggest areas that you see people getting in their own way when they're trying to move to that seven-figure mark or just make those big leaps in their business beyond the ones you've shared already?
Absolutely. So, one of the biggest things that I see people doing is delaying decision making. They think that they have to spend 3 weeks figuring something out. They think that they have to plan everything out, 4 months down the line, and they don't do the thing that's right in front of them. And they lose momentum, they lose the enthusiasm, they get distracted. One of the things that I teach my clients to do all the freaking time is be a quick decider. For instance, let's take a situation with team. You need to hire someone and I need to hire someone. You being the mythical you and me being me, okay? Someone out there needs to hire someone and I need to hire someone, okay? If they take 3 months to go through an interview process and do due diligence and really find the perfect person, and I take 3 days or 3 weeks, and I put the person to the test in 3 days or 3 weeks, and they take 3 months, there might be a higher chance that they get a great person the first time, but I could hire three people in the same time. And not that you want to, but like I can find out if someone is a fit or not a fit just like that, so much quicker. That moves me ahead. If I'm delaying saying yes to a proposal from a contractor because I'm scared, my money mindset is all in scarcity, and I take a month to decide versus me who takes 10 minutes to decide, who's going to get something in action faster in their business. Okay? I hear all the time from the women I coach, oh, I'll do that next week when I'm done with X, Y, and Z. And it's always a completely 100% completely legitimate reason to put something off, because your subconscious won't give you the reason to put something off that you don't agree with. It will give you the thing that you agree with. It's more important for me to finish moving. I just had this experience with a client on a client call yesterday, and she was like, I'm moving, I need to finish this thing on my website first, can't I do this next week? I was like, no, You can't. Lovingly, you get to decide what you want to do, but I am telling you as your coach that this is a delaying tactic. This will take 15 minutes. You have the time to do it. You need to prove to yourself that you're not afraid of visibility and putting yourself out there. And do it quick. Do it fast. Move towards the resistance before your subconscious can come up with that excuse. It's such a key thing. Like, be a quick decider and move towards the thing that you're resisting. Just do it now. You'd be surprised how much progress you can make so quickly.
I love that. That is so true. And I love the way that you framed that because I hear a lot of those excuses from my clients too sometimes. And it's easy for us to see where somebody's holding themselves back. And I think that's the beauty of working with somebody like you or working with somebody is it's hard to see in ourselves because to us it's a valid reason. It's not an excuse. But when my clients say it to me or when your clients say it to you, we can kind of see it for what it is. So I think that's really great and really great advice that you gave your client. So did she do it? Did she go out
She
and get it
did.
done?
She absolutely did. And I got the response and she was on it and she got it. I work with really high achievers and smart women. These are not people who would self-describe as people who aren't, on it. Okay. She was on it, but she's scared. She's going to the next level and it will,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she's not consciously scared, but she's subconsciously scared. So your subconscious will come up with any reason. And I was super proud of her, and she got it done. So yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. So, what else? What are some of the other things that are really more invisible barriers for people that maybe they don't realize they're doing that are actually keeping them stuck where they are?
Well, the two biggest things that stop people in terms of growing their business generally are investing time and investing money. So the example that I just gave you was investing time. Like, this was a little microcosm, but I don't have time. I need to do all these other things first. We create time. I know in this 3D world, everyone has the same 24 hours. Okay. It's not like, poof, I have a magic wand and can create an additional 3 days. Though, like, if a genie came and gave me 3 wishes, I might wish for that because time is an amazing resource. But Oprah has the same 24 hours in the day that you and I have. Okay. Richard Branson has the same 24 hours in a day. You have to stop seeing yourself as different from them, lesser than them, not not as capable as them. Because you do. You don't see yourself like Richard Branson. Okay? You don't see yourself like Oprah. But if you did, you'd adjust your schedule completely. You would approach your work completely differently. You would make different decisions. Now, you aren't Oprah and you're not a billionaire, okay? But she didn't start off that way. She started off where she started off and she took steps each time creating her life the way she wanted to. So we create time by making different decisions, okay? And some of those decisions go straight back to money. I can't do it because I don't have time to do it. And if I could just hire someone, right? Like, that's the money excuse, right? Or if I could just hire someone to clean my house, but I'm not willing to pay that money, right? That would free up 4 hours a week, whatever. Okay. There's all these, you know, uh, are you going to hire that next level contractor to do your Facebook ads, to run your events, to do your social media, whatever it is? There's a lot of resistance that people have to investing in both themselves and their business, and that that is something you just have to become extremely aware of. Where are you saying no because you think you don't have enough money? And if you have that thought, I would, like, hold out a helping hand and say, let's get you to the place where you know how to create as much money as you want whenever you want it. Like, you have zero doubt about your capacity to do that. You know exactly how to move money. You know exactly how to grow your business, and it's an ordered universe, and you don't freak out. You're not running on the hamster wheel. You're not worried about making payroll or paying your rent or whatever it is. Okay. You just know you have absolute confidence in it, and you'll always have stretch goals that you're going for more, with, but you know exactly how to do that. And part of what you need to learn in that is self trust, because most people won't spend in order to, as an investment in themselves, whether it's in coaching or in their business in terms of team or systems or uh, whatever it is, they won't invest because they don't trust themselves to stay committed to the work. And that again is an inner game piece. That again is an identity piece. That again is like we need to remap how you see yourself so that you start showing up differently in this world and you become someone who is committed, knows how to keep her word with herself.
So, how do you take that and leverage that to really make those big quantum leaps and income breakthroughs?
Yeah. So this is a big one. Okay. I don't know if your audience is going to relate to this or not, but I'm going to tell you anyways. I got super duper leverage over myself. When I when I went from 138 a year to 700K a year, I hired a very high-end mentor, and it was a six-figure investment. Six figures. 1000000. Okay? It was a six-figure investment. I did that despite my then husband saying, I don't think that you should do that, being very, quite frankly, against it. And I waited 6 months before I said yes. I wish I had done that sooner. I would have been further ahead. But when I did, I got leverage over myself. I was not going to not get a return on my investment. I was not going to follow what his advice was. I was not going to go slow. I was not going to delay my good. I didn't think it was magical thinking. Like I didn't think that like just because I hired someone like suddenly money was going to fall from the sky. It doesn't work that way. But I got leverage over myself because I wasn't going to waste that money. And he helped me change my identity. We talked about that already. Okay. And the other thing that helped me get leverage over it was because I had said yes to this, despite my ex's um, lack of agreement with it. And I felt like I was out of integrity having done that because we always made financial decisions together. I wasn't going to lose my marriage over it. And that was a huge amount of leverage that I got over myself to do the things that were required. Now, 2020 hindsight, I realize it's my business. I don't need permission from anyone to invest in my business. It's my business. That said, I took money out of my retirement account to fund this, and that in some ways was our money, and that was an emotional challenge for me, but I did it anyways because I was so in my truth that this was going to work and that I was going to do what I needed to. And then, once I started making bank, he was like, best decision ever, right? So that all worked out ultimately. But I got leverage over myself because, human beings, we move towards pleasure, towards our desires, towards what we want, and we move away from pain. We move away from potential negative consequences. And so I used that potential negative consequence. I wasn't blind to it. I used it as leverage. I don't want that. I want this. And Krista, that's a big thing. I know it's a little bit of a side, uh, tangent here, but most people blink out on the regret. Their life isn't going the way they want it to go. Their business isn't going the way that they want it to go, but they keep saying it'll change next week, next month, next year if they, but they're not really looking at that it hasn't changed and it hasn't evolved in the way they want, and it's been years, and they need to actually do something different. Our brains want to make us feel good, so we kind of ignore the looking at that issue that's right in front of us. And I try and help people call that out so that they can get leverage over themselves. Like, do you really want whatever your experience is right now forever? And I don't mean that to say knock yourself down at the knees and say everything's wrong in your life when it's not. Okay, everything's not wrong, but you do want something more, and there's certain things that you want to shift in your life. So, and quite frankly, I've done this, Krista, with first I did it with the money side of things, but then I started to do it with my weight. I started to do it with my relationships, my sex life. Like I became semi athletic, right? From being a couch potato, right? Like I changed all these aspects of who I was. And so it really became a process that went beyond just the money for me.
Yeah, it sounds like you have something that's so deeply ingrained in now how you think and how you operate that you can apply it to anything, which I love. And while you were talking and sharing, it sounded to me something that struck me was a lot of times people are I will when. I'll do that when. I'll do that when. It sounds like you've gotten rid of all of the I will whens and you're like, I'm doing it now. And I'm going to help my clients do it now.
100%. And there's always nuance and discernment that comes in because you can't
Mhm.
do everything now. That's actually one of the ways that we can self-sabotage is by saying, I'll do everything now, and then you're overwhelmed and doing too much. But I do recognize when something is a move the needle action in my business, it needs to happen now. It doesn't need to happen next week. And I just I call it closing the gap on time. Like I just keep saying yes now. So my week next week is fairly open, but by the time next week happens, there will be meetings in all those spaces because that project needs to be moved forward. This needs to be moved forward. Like the next opportunity is right there, and I'm going to jump on it and have that conversation and make it happen. We create it. Okay, so not make it from like a force um, heaviness perspective, but make it from a creative perspective happen for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's such a perfect transition to this question that I ask everybody. And I'm dying to hear what you say. But how do you work smarter, not harder in your business and keep things lean?
Ooh, such a good question. So I work smarter. I wonder if anyone has answered in this way, Krista. I work smarter by listening to spirit. So I listen to that divine guidance, whether you believe in God or you believe in the universe or some greater energy that's out there, whatever your, you know, belief system is, there is always energy coming through you and to you. And if I am connected and grounded and I'm listening to those clear downloads, if you will, and I act on them, it's always the right next step. Always. So I've gotten really good at discerning what's fear, what's distraction, what's someone else's stuff, and what's meant for me. What's the message that's meant for me? And I act on it. So that's how I work smarter. Leaner, how would I work leaner? I'm constantly looking at with my team, like we iterate, like, do we still need to be doing this? So I think that is, I pause there because I'm always in growth. Like I have this more life growth directive concept that I live by. And so our company is always growing. And so it's not for me, I don't think of, uh, I got a little hung up in the word lean because I'm thinking, oh, we're that would require not growing. But it's really that as we grow, we're looking at efficiencies and headcount efficiencies and how we do things. Do we still need to be doing the same stuff that we were doing before? Reevaluating the sort of marketing strategy. And I would also say, here's one that just came to me: hiring better and better people for my team. And it's not without. I'm not disparaging anyone who's worked for me in the past, but that's where I was at, and that was a perfect fit then. And as the company grows and becomes bigger, hiring better and better people has allowed us to not hire as many people and have a really strong team and a much leaner process.
Yeah, I love it. And to me, lean is really just about eliminating waste, eliminating the things that don't matter so you can double down on the things that do. So it's not a less concept, it's a more of the right things and less of the wrong things concept. So I think what you just described with your team is such a great fit there. It's how can you really get the absolute best and kind of next level people for where you're taking things. I think that's like the true definition of lean. So I love that. That's beautiful. So tell people about you. Where can they find more about you? And what do you got coming up next?
Yeah. So the best place for people to find us is to go to our website. We have a whole free resource page where we have morning mindset stuff, scale plans, lots of uh, free things that people can download and get at no charge. So that's the unstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. So it's with a the unstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. And then we have the Unstoppable Woman Income Breakthrough Summit that's coming up in November 5th, 6th, and 7th. And you're all invited for that. That's a 3-day event. It's going to be a hybrid event. So if you want to come virtually, you can come virtually, or we're doing it in person in Atlanta. And that's 3 days where I go deep into how to scale your business. What are the universal laws? We touch a little bit on sales, and we really help you see where you're getting in your own way and what you can do differently so that you are showing up as the highest version of yourself, and then able to execute on all your big dreams and desires and grow your business.
I love it. And everyone, the everything, all the links will be in the show notes. So make sure that you check those out and go check out everything that Amira has coming up. Thank you so much for being on the show. I feel like we could talk for just hours about this. So thanks so much. And everyone, we will see you again next week. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. I hope you got a lot of value and actionable insights from today's show, and would love if you take a moment to leave us a review. If you have any questions on today's episode or on how to lean out your business, join us over in our private Facebook community, where every week we do live training and Q&A, and I'd love to have you be part of the conversation. Head to leanoutmethod.com/group to join us. And before you go, be sure to subscribe to the show so you're the first to know when we release a new episode. We'll see you next week.